Namaskar Sadhiyo, how are you all? I hope you are doing well. So today is 25th of November, Tuesday, and here we are again for our daily news analysis from the respective newspapers of Indian Express, Hindu and PIB. Okay, so before we start, again a bit of motivation. So the quote goes today like this: just when you think it can't get any worse, it can, and just when you think it can't get any better, it can. So the beauty of life is that it is very much unpredictable. Okay, every step of your life you will see that there are surprises waiting for you. Okay, and this brings back to me one very famous song of Kishore Kumar. जिंदगी ये सफ़र है सुहाना, कल क्या होगा किसने क्या जाना. Okay, so we never know what's tomorrow gonna get for us. Okay, and I hope that that's the best part. We all live in excitement, and I know we have many problems, but guess what? It is just being the virtue of human. These are all very common. Okay, and you'll have to transcend them all, and you have to go beyond that, and you'll have to live a beautiful life that is destined for you. Okay, on this note, let's start today's newspaper article. So these are a few newspaper articles today, and most of them are very much important for the prelims, and a few are important for the mains. Okay, so let's start with the prelims articles today. Okay, so very important event has occurred in India recently. The ex-CJI GAVI has his term has been completed, and the new CJI Justice Suryakant, he took oath as the 53rd Chief Justice of India. Okay, now whenever such important events occur, UPSC will take a note, and UPSC might ask a question with respect to Chief Justice of India. Okay, now so now this article talks about the process of appointment of the Chief Justice. Okay, so now this is one of the previous year question with respect to the Chief Justice of India. Okay, and I want you to pause the video and I want you to attempt this question. Okay, having a previous year question before the article will give you an orientation कि how कैसे करना है वो article कैसे करना है कैसे पढ़ना है. Okay, and yeah, so now as I said already, he is the 53rd Chief Justice of India. Okay, and now we will see actually what is the process of the appointment of the Chief Justice of India. That is very important with respect to the prelims part. Okay, now so there is now the retirement of the CJ after his term has been completed. Now there is a consultation with Supreme Court judges, and now after the consultation there is a recommendation. The outgoing CJI actually sends the recommendation to the law minister. Okay, now outgoing CJI will send it to the law minister. Now to whom he will send it to the, or she will send it to the law minister, who forwards it to the prime minister, and after that it is forwarded to the president for the appointment. Okay, now it is not, UPSC has previously asked, it is not the prime minister who appoints the Chief Justice of India, it is president who appoints the Chief Justice of India. Okay, now so this is the whole and goal process, and now so we will go a few steps behind, and we will see what exactly the constitution talks about. The article 124 actually talks about the appointment of the Chief Justice of India. Okay, in that now we will see the tenure. If the UPSC asks the tenure of CJI is 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, it is absolutely wrong statement. What is the right statement? There is no tenure which is prescribed by the Constitution of India. The Constitution of India says that he or she will serve the term till the justice, Chief Justice acquires the age of 65 years. Okay, so that is the tenure part. Next, what is the eligibility? Obviously he has to be or she has to be the citizen of India and must have served in the High Court as a judge for 5 years, or should have been an advocate in the High Court for at least 10 years, and the President may also appoint someone considered as a distinguished jurist to the position. Okay. Now, we have learnt about the appointment process, we have learnt about the eligibility. Now, we will learn about the impeachment or the removal process. Okay. Till now there is no CJI has been impeached. There was one particular Chief Justice of an High Court whose impeachment process was almost to be completed, but nobody has been yet impeached till date in the independent India. Okay. Now, so what is the process of removal? The process of removal, there is an initiation. Now, initiation has to be signed by 100 Lok Sabha and 50 Rajya Sabha members. Okay. Now, after the initiation process, now there is an investigation. Okay. Now, this can be submitted, the initiation process can be submitted in the Lok Sabha or in the Rajya Sabha. Okay. Now, once it is admitted, now there is an investigation done by the House. Okay. Now, after that investigation there will be findings, upon that there will be debates. Okay. Now, upon the debates, now there is a motion passed by each house of the parliament, and what is the majority that needs? There needs to be 2/3 majority, also called as absolute majority. Okay. Now, after this there will be now the two houses have to pass the motion by 2/3 majority, and after passing the 2/3 majority, now there is a order for the removal of the justice, judge of a particular court. Okay. So, this is the exact process of the removal of the judges of the Supreme Court. Okay. So, now you have understood this. So, please make a note of all these things. I have given you almost all the very important details. Okay. Now, you have to look upon any previous year questions upon this, and this is one of the very important article this time. So, let us go to the second article today. This article is about labour codes. Okay. There has been much discussion upon the newly implemented labour codes. Okay. So, now this article specifically talks about the tripartite non-consensus in the implementation of the labour codes. What is that? We will see. So, who are these triparties? The triparties are the government, the employers and the employees. Okay. In broader sense, if you are working anywhere, you are called as the labour itself. Okay. So, now delays and challenges in the implementation of the 4 labour codes and the need for the tripartite consultation with workers, employees and the state. Okay. This is what the article broadly talks about. Okay. It talks about the issues and all those things. Now, what is important for us? Prelims is most required for us. Okay. In this, so before getting into that, we need to know why exactly these labour codes were passed. Around more than 30 labour codes, labour laws were there in India, across the different state, different laws being there. Okay. Now, and because of this, there was regulatory issues, there was exploitation, there were unnecessary demands. Okay. And because of all this, you will see that there was low ranking of the ease of doing business. If you see the metrics of the ease of doing business, the labour also has a very important, labour is also very important constituent. Okay. Now, when this implementation of these labour laws are not very good, that will definitely take a hit on the ease of doing business. Okay. And we are aiming for the Viksit Bharat, we are aiming for improving the manufacturing sector contribution to the GDP, which is more or less around 14%. Okay. So, now beyond that, to solve that issue, Indian government has brought on this 4 labour codes. What are these labour codes? These labour codes are Code on Wages, which is of 2019. It unifies the 4 labour laws related to wages and bonuses. Next one is the industrial code relations. It consolidates the laws governing trade unions, conditions of employment and industrial establishments. Next is code on social security. It extends the social security benefits to all employees and worker, covering both the organized and unorganized sector. And next one is the occupational safety, health and working conditions code 2020. Okay, now so what all these have done, 4 codes have broadly brought in the unified system where the labour laws are to be implemented differently, similarly in all the states of all across the country. Okay, so you need to know very important prelims fact over here is that the labour and labour regulation comes under the concurrent list. Okay, that is very important. So okay, we will see why the implementation has been delayed. Okay, the implementation has been delayed because of various reasons. First of all, there is the centre has promised a tripartite consultation, but the unions are saying that it has not been actually they have not been actually consulted. Okay, and next there is the state must actually frame rules abiding with the centre's codes, but the only few states have done that. And next one is the labour unions. They actually argue that the issues which were previously there before the enactment of the code, such as the employer-employee relations, wage protection and job security, these are actually weakened. Okay, so now these are all the issues with respect to which the article is talking about. Okay, for the prelims part, you need to know what are these codes and how are these implemented, which list that the labour codes actually come in. Okay, so now this completes our second article. Now let us move to the third article. Okay, now the third article talks about the centre's effort to get the Chandigarh under Article 240 as a union territory. Okay, so now there is a proposal that the Chandigarh under Article 240 of the Constitution, which has triggered a debate over the city's governance structure and its federal consequences. So this is the exact news. Okay, now what is Article 240? So now it expanded the presidential powers. Article 240 allows the president to make regulations having the force of law for certain union territories. So now these union territories include Andaman Nicobar Islands, these include Lakshadweep, this include Dadra Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu. Okay, so now centre wants to bring the same sort of governance in the governance structure in the Chandigarh. Okay, you know that Chandigarh is the capital of Haryana and the joint capital of the Haryana and Punjab. Okay, so now what the application of actually the application of 240 would bring in what? So the application would bring in significant changes in the governance structure where the president effectively, which means effectively the union government would gain sweeping lawmaking power. Okay, now next is the union territories governance may resemble and the heavily centralized administration such as the island territories. And next, the administrator role would grow and influence and reducing the influence of the Punjab and Haryana. So these are actually the contending issues with respect to the Chandigarh coming under the Article 240. Okay, so now we will just see what are the different percepts with respect to the bringing under Article 240 Chandigarh. Okay, so now the impact on the Punjab-Haryana relations. So now, given the Chandigarh's symbolic and practical importance, any shift could actually reignite interstate tensions, relations tensions, and also center-state relations tensions. Okay, now and also it may affect the issues like state cadre posting, resource allocation, and administrative coordination. Okay, these are the major issues. And now next one is the legislative overreach risks. Okay, now we see that except for the Puducherry, which has and also the New Delhi, okay, we see that the union territories has always been in the news as a tussle issue between the centre and the state. Okay, we saw n number of cases being fought in the court. okay, and a number of protests and everything. Now that sort of governance, if here it is brought in the Chandigarh, it could also bring in so many ramifications, out of which the legislative ramifications, administrative ramifications are there. Administrative ramifications are this, and the legislative ramifications are, now Article 240 is broad wording, allows the centre to regulate almost all the aspects of the governance, okay, such as property rights, municipal functioning, policing and service rules without the state legislature oversight, okay. Now these are very formidable powers that are supposed to be given to the centre when Chandigarh is going under Article 240, okay. So now that's the reason why it is under the debate, okay. Now third one is the precedents and the lessons. So the past attempts to alter Chandigarh status, such as in 2006 also there was such proposal, okay. If you ever have visited Chandigarh, it's a very beautiful city, okay. So now in 2006 also the same attempt was being done, but because of the protest from the Akali Dal, it was not pursued further, okay. So we'll have to wait and see. With respect to prelims part, we need to understand what is Article 250, what happens when a region is put under Article 250, its legislative and executive changes that this article is going to bring with respect to the administration and everything. So that all you need to understand, okay. I think that is with respect to the second article, okay. Now so let us move to the next article, okay. So this article actually talks about the malaria vaccine, okay. You need to understand that malaria is a very fatal disease, okay, and Africa is very much affected by the malaria, okay. It is so much so affected that it has caused genetic changes or evolutionary changes with respect to the red blood cells, okay. So they have developed different sort of thalassaemic RBC, so that the parasite, Plasmodium parasite, which is responsible for causing bacteria, the malaria, will not be able to survive in the RBC, okay, which is the red blood cells, okay. Now so what is this article about? Now there is a vaccine, okay, and now there is GAVI and UNICEF have signed an agreement to make the R21 matrix M. This is the vaccine name. You should not be surprised if UPSC asks directly what is recently R21 matrix M has been in the news. What is this about? Okay. So UPSC has previously asked these sorts of questions, okay. Now so there is a based on with respect to the affordability or with respect to the governance of this administration of the vaccine. So there was a meeting held and there was an agreement held between the UNICEF and GAVI, and this article actually talks about that particular agreement, okay. So now these are the previous year questions with respect to different diseases, okay, and vaccines, okay. I want you to pause the video and try to attempt these questions, okay. Okay, now so now GAVI is an institution. We will deal about what exactly GAVI is and what is UNICEF, okay. So now GAVI and UNICEF have signed an agreement to make R21 matrix M malaria vaccine more affordable and widely accessible, strengthening global malaria immunization, okay. So that's what this article talks about. And now before going into that, we need to know about what is actually GAVI. So UPSC will definitely ask, okay, these sorts of institutions which are actually in the news, okay. So there is a high possibility. Now GAVI is a vaccine alliance. It is a public private global health partnership, okay. It is not inter country or intercontinental organization, something like that. It is a public-private global health partnership. Its mission is increasing the equitable and sustainable access to immunization in the lower income countries. Okay, and its key partners are UNICEF, donor governments, and WHO and World Bank. Okay, now and there is one more institution which is International Finance Facility for Immunization. International Finance Facility for Immunization. So what is this institution? This institution is an innovative financial mechanism. Okay, it is a financial mechanism. It is not an organization governing something. It is a financial mechanism, especially and only for the GAVI. Okay, and now what does it function? It front loads funding by converting long term donor pledges into immediate cash, just like bonds. Okay, and now it issues vaccine bonds on capital markets. Okay, it issues bonds on the capital markets. Okay, what is the purpose? The purpose is to allow GAVI to access large funds immediately, accelerating the immunization programs. Okay, see, where exactly will you see the issues with respect to immunization? It is usually in the lower income countries, poorest of the poor countries. Okay, why they are not able to implement immunization? Because it is very costly, right? So developed countries will have their own financial mechanisms to take care of their citizens, to take care of their children. But what about the lower income countries, underdeveloped countries? In this scenario, GAVI and this financial mechanism will come into place. Okay, so whenever if you see a statement or if you see any question, try to see that whenever a question asked about a vaccine or its funding mechanism, will that be applicable to only high income countries or low income countries? So, and based on this fact, you have to judge the merit of the statement. Okay, so now next one is the it says that these two vaccines are actually WHO pre-qualified. So what is the pre-qualification? Okay, so now what is the pre-qualification program of the WHO? It is a global quality assurance service which is run by the WHO. It is the global quality assurance run by the WHO. Now it determines the global supply eligibility, accessibility, safety and efficiency of the essential health products such as injections, such as vaccines, tablets, drugs. Okay, so all these things, if they are WHO pre-qualified, then only you can perfectly say that okay, this is safe to be administered, this is safe to be distributed. Okay, so that is what the WHO pre-qualification is all about. Now the products meeting the international standards are called as the pre-qualified. Okay, now what is the impact? The procurement agencies such as UNICEF, GAVI and countries use this pre-qualification list to guide the bulk purchases of high quality products. Okay, now unless and until a particular vaccine or a drug is pre-qualified, the funding mechanism or administrative mechanism or acceptance on a large scale won't be happening. You know that immunization or vaccines, these all happen in a very large scale. Okay, so that's what this is all about. UPSC may ask what is the it may give a statement based on the pre-qualification of WHO. Okay, so now there is possibility that UPSC might ask what is the malaria and what are the nitty-gritties of the malaria. So malaria is nothing but it is caused due to the transmission of a parasite called as plasmodium, and these plasmodium are of different types. Okay, it is actually transferred, the vector is a female Anopheles mosquito, Culex mosquito. Okay, now it is actually female, not the male. You need to understand that. Okay, and now it has a cycle of a few days, and after that you will feel a bit of fever, and then sweating, and after that fever, and then again sweating. Okay, it might be very fatal. Okay, it will affect your liver, it will cause multi-organ failure of your body. Okay, so now there are vaccines such as RTSS vaccine and AS01 vaccine. Okay, there are a few, these are a few details about it. Okay, so you can just pause the video and see. Okay, and now I have already talked about what is malaria disease and what are the how it is caused and what are the effects of it. Okay, and these are a few details about it. Okay, you can pause the video and just watch it once. Okay, if you have any doubt. Okay, so I'm just giving you what exactly is very important for the prelims part. So let us go through the next article. This article, it actually talks about the India India has commissioned INS Mahe, an 80% indigenous anti-submarine warfare vessel, strengthening the Atmanirbharta, self-reliance. Okay, 80% manufacturing by India is not a joke. Okay, we have come from a position that all our submarines we were actually leasing from other countries, mostly from Russia. Okay, and that will cause so much pressure on our pocket. Okay, so now coming from there, we have actually committed for indigenizing our own defense sector, and this is one of the major and very important step in that arena. Okay, so this is one of the previous year question, and you can see that whenever such very important submarines have been into the news, and UPSC has taken a chance and it is asked the question. Okay, I want you to pause the video and answer the question. Fine. So what's the news is about? The news is about Indian Navy commissioning the Silent Hunter. Okay, it is called as the Silent Hunter. Okay, and now it is the first Mahe class anti-submarine warfare shallow watercraft. Okay, so now what is this about? Let's go through the specification. Now it is a type and we'll see what is the type and classification. It is an offshore patrol vessel designed for coastal security, surveillance and patrolling, and it is built under Make in India initiative. As I have told you earlier, 80% of the INS Mahe has been manufactured by indigenous technology India. Okay, so now what are the key specification? Its length is 100 meters, displacement of 2000 tons, 25 plus knots, and its range extend for patrols. And now so we will see other specifications, such as it has a flight deck suitable for helicopter, it supports UAV machines, and after that it also has armament for the medium caliber gun and close range weapons and capability to embark teams and so on and so forth. Okay, so these are a few specifications. Now for what do we use INS Mahe? We are going to use them for exclusive economic zone protection, patrolling, next anti-smuggling, anti-piracy, anti-trafficking operations, and now coastal surveillance and humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. Okay, you see that we are a peninsular country, we have very big coast. Okay, and you have very friendly neighbors. On left side, on the east side, you see migration coming in. Okay, and from the west side, you see that some notorious terrorists coming in. That's how the Mumbai attacks were framed. Okay, and you famously know about the Ghazi attack. Okay, which was in 1970s actually. So it is a submarine commissioned by our very friendly neighbor Pakistan. Okay, so now taking all these into consideration, we have brought in the first Mahe generation INS Mahe, and above and beyond that, we are actually going for indigenization. Okay, that is very important. Why? Because the current account deficit, one part. We have to be an exporter, net exporter of our defense products. So that is our larger goal with respect to our defense sector. Okay, and I hope and we all hope that we all wish that will come true. Cool. So that completes that article, and now let's move on to the next article. So now this article talks about the internet access on airplane. Okay. So we have actually seen that UPSC has asked very simple, very simple questions with respect to prelims. Okay. It gave question on what is the difference between VoLTE and LTE. Asked the difference between 3G, 4G. It has asked the difference between the tungsten light, and it has asked the difference between the tungsten light and LED light. Okay. So now there was an article published in the newspaper today which talked about how exactly the transmission of data with which is internet occurs on the planes. Okay. Now we are seeing that now internet has been going everywhere. Okay. And the premium classes, especially the premium airplanes, they are providing internet. Okay. As of now we are seeing that these internet services are being provided in the international flights and a few high ticket price national flights as well. So we need to know exactly how this will function. Okay. So now, so the airline passengers, what's the news? The airline passengers access the internet through a mix of air to ground towers and satellite links that connect the aircraft's onboard Wi-Fi system to the ground network while managing the bandwidth, latency and safety. So now how you all know how internet actually works in your house. We have a connection, internet connection based on the optical fibers, okay, and also satellite. Now that is connected to a Wi-Fi router, and we have our devices, and that device is connected to that Wi-Fi, and now that Wi-Fi has internet access, and then we are able to access the internet. Okay, this is when you are in a particularly confined space. Now what exactly happens when you are flying? Okay, now when you are flying, the aircraft acts like a flying Wi-Fi router linked to the ground networks. Okay, so now there are two technologies involved. First is the air to ground, and now next is the satellite to ground. Okay, here, so this is an aircraft, this has Wi-Fi. Okay, now there is a satellite in the orbits MEO and GEO. Okay, so now and there is a on land you will have towers like this. So now what happens is that whenever the aircraft is flying over the land, the internet access is attained through the air to ground like this via antennas. The airplane actually has an antenna, and now whenever it is flying over water or in the air per se, now at that point of time the aircrafts connect to the satellites which relay data to the ground stations. So now this is with two mechanisms, with the help of these two mechanisms, actually the internet is being provided to the passengers traveling in the airplane. Okay, I hope you have understood. Now inside the aircraft, the access point in the cabin create an internal network which is just like Wi-Fi, and passengers authenticate through the airlines portals. Okay, so yeah, this is how the internet transmission actually occurs in the airplane. Now, so there are a few specifications. Now the Now the satellite connectivity, it uses low Earth orbit or geostationary orbits. Okay, it has higher latency. So what is latency? Latency is nothing but the time taken between the communication. Okay, the data transfer may, if it is taking more time, it has higher latency. If it takes very less time in data transfer, that is known as the lower latency. Understood? So if it is a good connection, you will have very low latency. If it is a bad connection, you will have very high latency. Okay. So now it is trying to say that the satellite connection actually has wider bandwidth, but the latency is very high. Okay. On the other hand, now the next thing that we have to discuss over here is that there is a safety concerns with respect to the internet transmission. Okay. So we need to know that how exactly the airplane actually communicates. It communicates to the radio signals. There, why have you ever thought that why actually you are being told to switch off your mobiles or put it on airplane? Why? Because there is a possibility that the transmission, signal transmission to your mobile might interfere with the transmission of the airplane, and that is the reason why you are asked to switch off your devices or put it on a airplane mode. Okay. Now when internet is running per se, now there is a possibility that the obstruction or disturbances will definitely occur in the might definitely occur with respect to the transmission of radio waves or the signals or whatever the communication that pilots want to have to do. So that is one of the most safety concern. Okay, prelims statement might be framed on this line, that there will be no disturbance, there will be no disturbance when the internet is being accessed in the transmission of the signals. Okay. Now and then you will have to understand that no, it is not right. Okay. There might be a possibility. Okay. So now phone trying to connect to multiple towers cause radio noise. Airplane mode avoids the interference with the avionics and cellular networks. Okay. Now so as I told you earlier, why the phone calls actually are, the phones are actually advised to put it in a airplane mode. So this technology you need to understand, and UPSC will ask you very simple and very those concepts which you use in everyday. Okay, why does it ask? It checks your awareness, it checks how aware you are about your surroundings. The next article we are going to discuss is related to economy, and in this, based on the macroeconomic stability, RBI governors has suggested that there might be reduction in the repo rate. Okay. So it becomes imperative for us to understand what is repo rate, who actually gives repo rate, and on what basis it is decided, what are the effects of increasing or decreasing the repo rate. Okay. So now we will study about this. So these are a few previous year questions. I want you to pause the video and attempt these two questions. Okay. Okay. Now, so what is the news? The news is that based on the macroeconomic stability, the indicators suggest that there is a room for RBI to cut the repo rate. Okay. So you need to understand what is repo rate. The repo rate is nothing but the rate at which the RBI lends the money to the commercial banks. So that is known as the repo rate. Okay. And now reverse repo rate is the opposite of it. So you might have studied in your foundation. Okay. Now next, after that, now what are the effects of the repo rate being reduced or increased? Okay. Now the repo rate, whenever it is reduced, it is easier for the commercial banks to borrow money. Okay. Now when it is easier for the commercial banks to borrow money, it is also easier for them to lend money. Okay. When it is easier for them to lend money, there will be more of lending, and when there is more of lending, there will be more of liquidity in the market, and when there is more liquidity in the market, the consumption will increase. Okay. That would have differentiated effects with respect to inflation. Okay, so and there is a cause and effect. Okay, when there is a repo rate increase, there is liquidity decreasing. When there is a repo rate decreasing, then there will be liquidity increasing. Okay, whenever there is high inflation, what should the repo rate be? Please comment in the comment section. Whenever there is a low inflation, what should be the repo rate? Please, you can comment in the comment section. Okay, now who actually gives this repo rate? So the repo rate is given by the Monetary Policy Committee. Okay, now under RBI Act 1934, which is amended in the 2016, now it forms the legal basis for the Monetary Policy Committee. So the Monetary Policy Committee has target of maintaining the inflation up to between the bracket of 2% to 6%, okay, which is 4 plus or minus 2. Okay, now next is that what is the composition of the Monetary Policy Committee? So the Monetary Policy Committee composition is 3 are appointed by the central government and 3 are from the RBI, which is the chairperson, governor, deputy governor and one official. Okay, so now these are the major details with respect to the repo rate and Monetary Policy Committee. Okay, so this is one of such diagrammatic representation of the effect of repo rate and the inflation. Okay, so when there is a higher repo rate, there is difficulty in borrowing money, lower spending, less price and lower inflation. Okay, this is what occurs when there is a opposite of this. Okay, so now this is what required for the prelims. Okay, don't go beyond much for this. Okay, I have seen people who are unnecessarily going into unnecessary details. Okay, and you need to understand that for prelims you need to have a horizontal coverage, okay, and little bit of vertical coverage. On the other hand, for the mains you need to have very good vertical coverage, analysis, counter analysis, all those things you need to have. Okay, for prelims with respect to the money in banking, always focus on how the cause and effects are being run. Okay, so for example, now repo rate connection with the bond yield. Okay, and now you see that quantitative easing and federal tapering of US. Okay, how it will affect the US dollar exchange rate. Okay, and how will it affect the bond yield? Okay, these are a few things which UPSC will ask. Okay, and you have to prepare in such manner only. Okay, so now that completes our article. Now let us move on to our next article. So the next article is with respect to the COP30. It is very much in news for so many different reasons. Okay, so now it is a very small snippet in the newspaper. Okay, so now how the climate summit COP30 in Brazil shone the spotlight on the Mutirao. Okay, it is Mutirao, it is pronounced as Mutirao. So we need to understand whenever these sorts of terms actually come in the newspaper, UPSC is very notorious to ask these sorts of terms. Okay, we will just see what exactly this is about. Okay, so this is what the news is about. Fine. Now it is a philosophy. Okay, it is that a collective community driven effort to achieve a common goal. It is the indigenous way. Okay, it is an indigenous way, okay, of conserving something. Okay, so now COP being a very important convention. Okay, now protecting the indigenous communities becomes very vital and very important. They are actually the forebearers and guardians of the specific forest or the ecology over there. Okay, so and they have the philosophy of Mutirao, and this is what it is about. Okay, so and you don't need to dwell much upon this. Okay, if you want to read about it, just pause the video and just go through this. Not much necessary. So let us move on to our next article. The next article is about tiger reserve. Okay, so UPSC has previously asked questions with respect to tiger reserves. Okay, and these are a couple of questions. I want you to again pause the video and attempt the question. Okay, so yeah, so Supreme Court has appointed a committee and that committee has recommended that Goa to notify a tiger reserve by including parts of Madhei, Kotiago, Netravali and Bhagwan Mahavir Wildlife Sanctuaries. Okay, so this is the news. Now it becomes very imperative for us to learn what is a tiger reserve and who notifies it and the nitty-gritties of it. So now, so what is a tiger reserve? Tiger reserve is a protected area for the protection of the tigers. Okay, so in this, it has its legal basis in the Wildlife Protection Act. Okay, Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 has the legal basis for the establishment of the tiger reserve. Okay, now who notifies the tiger reserve? It is notified by the state government only. Okay, NTCA recommends. Okay, once the state has notified, now the state government cannot alter its boundaries. Okay, again it has to take the recommendations of the NTCA. Okay, so now what is the criteria for the tiger reserve notification? There has to be availability of tigers, there has to be continuity with the other forest and minimal human presence, and ecological and environmental criteria such as areas of rich biodiversity, support of habitats for prey of species, and align with the broader conservation goals. Okay, so these are a few criteria with which the tiger reserve is notified. Okay, so now NTCA can actually advise and direct the center and state under the section 380 of the 338O of the Wildlife Protection Act. Okay, so I have given you the most important details with respect to the tiger reserves, and please pause the video and see the exact tiger reserves which are present in our country. Okay, and UPSC might ask you to match the following, or UPSC will ask you different details about the wildlife sanctuaries or national parks or tiger reserves. Okay, these are a few tiger reserves in the country. Okay, so yeah, that completes our article, and now let us move on to the next article, which is respect to the Sudan. And you might have already heard about, there has been worst humanitarian crisis in the Sudan. Okay, I'll give you a brief background. Okay, Sudan had a dictator before, and Sudan government before had two divisions. One is the paramilitary force and next one is the army. Okay, now when the previous dictator was ousted from the power, what happened was that these two military forces, which one is the paramilitary and one is the army, they started a power tussle between both of them, and it has been a continuous issue till now, and it is estimated that more than 3 to 4 lakhs of people have been killed. Okay, and it is a lesser published and lesser known humanitarian crisis which is occurring in the Africa. So, and again, whenever there is an issue, and the USA will come finding its solution. Okay, and now USA has given a solution over here, to which the two leaders of the two forces leaders have singularly rejected it. Okay, now let us not get into the actually what exactly they proposed, because it is of no use for our prelims. But what comes important is the issue of there is a humanitarian crisis going on and we need to know about it, and also we will see a bit of mapping. Okay, before we go into that, these are a couple of questions which UPSC has asked with respect to conflict areas. Okay, I want you to pause the video and attempt this question. Okay, so now Sudan's military leader has rejected the US-led ceasefire proposal, prolonging a 30-month civil conflict marked by the humanitarian collapse and so and so. Okay, so now let's just see the mapping of Sudan. Okay, whenever there is areas in conflict, for example, Afghanistan was in conflict, UPSC asked the surrounding countries. Now Ukraine was in conflict. Now UPSC has asked countries surrounding the Ukraine. And now Sudan is in conflict. now you will see that there is a high probability that UPSC might ask. Okay, so now what are the countries surrounding the Sudan? It is Egypt, it is Chad, it is Central African Republic and Democratic Republic of Congo, Uganda, Kenya, Ethiopia, and Red Sea is also there. Okay, Djibouti is not. Okay, Djibouti is not. Let me repeat it once again. Sudan is surrounded by Egypt, Chad, Central African Republic, Democratic Republic of Congo, Uganda, Kenya, Ethiopia. Okay, these are the countries. Okay, as of now you will have to know about only these many details. Okay, so it is more than enough. Fine. Okay, so the next article is about volcano eruption which occurred in Ethiopia. So this volcano eruption has occurred after 10,000 years, and this smoke has reached till India. Okay, what is that volcano? The volcano is Hayli Gubba volcano in Ethiopia. Okay, so now you need to know exactly what the volcano is. Okay, and now it has been the long dormant volcano which erupted after 10,000 years, and a long dormant volcano of Afar region. Okay, of Afar region in the Ethiopia. It is situated in the Afar region in the Ethiopia, and thus sending ash plumes across the Red Sea and even reaching a parts of India, disrupting the aviation. Okay, so remember what volcano it is. UPSC might ask in the mapping. And next one is the we need to understand, we need to know about what are the countries which are surrounding the Ethiopia. These are Somalia, Kenya, South Sudan, okay, Sudan and Eritrea, and one small country which is Djibouti. Okay, and now Red Sea does not have a border with Ethiopia. Okay, I will repeat it again. Somalia, Kenya, Uganda, South Sudan, Sudan, Eritrea and Djibouti. Okay, so these are a few countries with which the Ethiopia has boundaries with. Okay, so this much is more than enough, and please go look upon the different types of volcano, the constituents of volcano, different types of lava, okay, and the situation of the different volcanoes across the circum-Pacific belt.